In today's chess video, we are going to look at the most popular opening, the London system. It's a solid opening and very easy to learn because white can play the same opening moves no matter what black plays. Alright, so what is the London system? Basically, this is what it is. You get the bishop out and then create a pyramid of pawns just like this. These three pawns and this bishop on f4 are the main characteristics of the London. Some would say that the London is boring because of its repetitive nature, but in this video, I'll show you how to play it in different ways to spice it up and get yourself into aggressive middle game positions. We'll see where these other pieces go, so let's analyze this in detail. We start with the queen's pawn opening, and now two of the most popular responses from black are d5 and knight f6 because obviously they stake a claim in the center. Black can first play d5 and then knight f6 or even the other way around. In both cases, it will transpose into the same position. Of course, there are other moves that black might play which we'll look at later, but for the moment, let's stick to d5 and knight f6. Let's say he starts with d5. Now I'm sure most of you would be tempted to play c4, the queen's gambit. The problem with c4 is that black has many ways of countering this. He can decline the gambit with e6, the Slav defense or the marshal's defense, or he can even accept the gambit. And of course, he has this very aggressive Albin counter gambit. And there are many other ways in which black can fight for the center. So basically, if you're going for the queen's gambit, you need to study a lot of theory against different variations, which of course is not an easy task. And that's where the London system is very useful. You can play it against anything, literally anything. Okay, so as I showed you earlier, in the London, you should create a pyramid of pawns. But before that, you need to get this bishop out, so bishop f4. And as I mentioned earlier, knight f6 is the most popular move. Now let's create a pyramid. e3 almost always is going to be our next move. And now there are many different ways in which black can play. He can solidify with e6 or c6 or try to mimic you with bishop f5. He can also play c5 to attack the center or go to g6 with a King's Indian type of a setup. I'll give you some really simple strategies to play against all these variations. But first, let's look at the ideal London setup from white's point of view. Don't worry about black's moves for the moment, just focus on how we'll be developing each of these pieces. Let's say he plays e6, then finally c3, and we've completed the basic London setup. Let's go a little further. Black plays c5, attacking the center. Now we need to develop these three minor pieces, and generally this is where they will go. Let's start with knight f3. Now I suggest you don't play this until black has played e6. Because say if this pawn was not here, he could anytime play bishop g4 and then pin our knight. Here it is safe to play knight f3, so we'll go for that. Black continues with his development and we activate our other knight. Now most probably black will look to castle, so he has to move his bishop. If he goes to d6, don't exchange the bishops. Instead, just keep the tension and slide your bishop back to g3. So that if he takes your bishop, you can recapture with this pawn and open up this dangerous h-file for the rook. Going back, in this position, if he moves his bishop to e7, then you can simply develop this way. But sometimes black can try knight h5 and force you to exchange your bishop for the knight. That's not something we want. Therefore, I prefer to play h3 so that if he attacks with his knight, we can slide back to h2. So that's something you need to be aware of. Going back after h3, let's say he castles, then you finally activate your bishop. And we reach this ideal setup for white. You have this solid pawn chain in the center. Both these bishops are well placed along these beautiful diagonals. And even if you try something like c4, you can simply go back to c2 and keep the attack along this diagonal. The reason why the London is so good is because white controls these critical e4 and e5 squares. Look, we are controlling this square with this knight and the bishop. And also this square with the knight, the bishop and this pawn. These two squares are very important in the London opening. And by having control, we restrict black's counterplay in the center. Our game plan is quite simple. Centralize this knight and then attack with your entire army on the king side. This is just the perfect London setup for white. But black will not always allow you to do this. Therefore, you just can't memorize moves. You need to be flexible enough depending on what black is doing. Therefore, I'll show you some simple and very powerful ideas against different variations. But before that, I would like to thank Babbel for sponsoring this video. Babbel is one of the best language learning apps that teaches practical conversations through short and effective lessons. I first started using Babbel to learn French as a self-development activity. And generally, learning new words and languages always fascinates me a lot. But the very sweet sounding French turned out to be really difficult. The pronunciations, the grammar, everything seemed very complex and demanding. that's where Babbel came to my help. In the Babbel app, you can start with a few short lessons to pick up the basics and then mix it up with other fun and interactive learning methods like podcasts, games, videos, and even live classes with top language teachers. I found the podcast to be a great tool for beginners. And the best part is, with the speech recognition feature, you can perfect your pronunciations as well.
Oui.
Oui.
Merci.
Messy. So guys, if you're heading for a holiday in the summers and would like to learn the language of the land, or if you just want to learn a new skill like me, then you should definitely try out Babbel. Right now, Babbel is offering a 65% discount for all Chess Talk viewers. So just click the link in the description and you're all set to start your learning journey. Alright, so I showed you the basic setup of the London where you have this terrific pawn structure and all these minor pieces are beautifully placed to launch a strategic attack. Now one idea is to centralize this knight, and if he takes, you recapture with the pawn and not the bishop. Don't worry about these doubled pawns because this forces away the knight from the defense of this h5 square, and now you have the queen jumping into action with multiple attacks on the lonely king. You can even go for some smart sacrifices here to open up the king and finish him off. Now in this position, what if he doesn't take your knight and plays something else? Well, of course, you can always castle and play a safe game, but if you're an attacking player, you can bring out your queen this way or maybe even start pushing these pawns to open up the king side. It all depends on what you're comfortable with. Now this is just one of the many variations in the London. I feel this is the best opening for lazy players, but still, you cannot completely ignore what black is doing. Chess is not that simple. So now I'll show you how to play against black's different responses. Let's start from the beginning. d4, d5, bishop f4, knight f6, and I told you earlier that if he plays e6, it is safe to play knight f3. But let's say here he straight away plays c5. This c5 move is very common in the London and you might encounter this at different times during the game. The point is that not only does this undermine your center, but it also has a sneaky little idea. Look, by getting the bishop out of this pawn chain, you've created this weakness on b2, which black can take advantage of. Now after c5, we complete the pyramid. He develops his knight, and now it's time for you to activate these three minor pieces. But which one do you activate first? The move order is very important. If you go for knight f3, black can play queen b6, threatening to take on b2. Now pushing b3 just weakens your pawn structure, so you're only left with offering a queen trade. Here, if black takes, then you're still in a good position because after the exchange, you get an open file for the rook. In fact, initiating the exchange is not a good idea for either of the sides because that activates the enemy rook. So anyway, if black is smart, he won't take. Instead, he'll push c4. Again, you'll have to move your queen, and then black has another clever idea, and that is bishop to f5. You cannot take the bishop because then you lose your rook. At the end of all this, if you see, you just keep moving your queen, and in the meanwhile, black has smartly activated all his pieces. Therefore, you need to be very careful before moving this knight. In this game, since e6 was not played, this bishop was free to attack the queen. Therefore, going back in this position, instead of developing this knight, a better move would have been to activate this knight first. Now look, even if he goes queen b6, the same idea doesn't work because you can simply take the bishop and then easily save your rook. Alright, let's go back. Now what if your opponent tries to copy you? d4, d5, bishop f4 and then bishop f5. Well, you can continue to play in the pyramid style approach, but that's a bit defensive. If I see something like this, I like to play c4 because I want to take advantage of the very same weakness that we saw on white's side. Black is trying to play the London setup, and by playing this way, he just abandons the b7 pawn. So we can just go after this with knight c3, queen b3, push these pawns and focus our attack on the queen side. This is a really good strategy, especially if you're an aggressive player. Alright, now what if your opponent does not play c5 at all and develops normally with knight c6? Well, this move completely stops this pawn from moving forward, which therefore restricts the queen from coming out. This means black won't have much activity on the queen side. Now there are two ways you can play this as white. You can either continue with your normal London setup, take control of the center and push with e4, e5. Or the other option is that you can go for the immediate attack with c4. You can pressurize d5 since the c pawn is not coming down soon and then try to disrupt the center from the queen side. It's a little different from the regular London setup, but definitely worth a try. Okay, now let's look at a very important variation where black starts with the King's Indian setup. So d4, then knight f6, bishop f4, and if he goes to d5 or say e6 d5, it's the same thing that we saw earlier. But here he can also play g6, bishop g7, castle shot, and then go for the center. This is the King's Indian, a very popular opening played at the Grandmaster level. Now to counter this, my recommendation would be, instead of the pyramid setup, you can play knight c3. That's because if black does not pay attention and just continues without thinking, you can plant your other pawn and now you have a strong hold of the center. From this position, black is always playing catch up. He'll try to remove these pawns and that's where you can attack. Our game plan is simple. Play queen d2, castle on the queen side. Soon you can exchange these bishops and then push these pawns, open up the king side and go after this king with your entire army. This of course is not the London, but as I told you, you need to be flexible. Okay, now in this position, your opponent might not always allow you to play e4. So his best way to stop you would be d5. In this case also, you can go for the same queen d2 idea. But another way to counter this is to play e3. This opens up both these diagonals for your queen and bishop. In this kind of a variation, your focus will mainly be on the king side. You can activate your knight and bishop and even try to push h4, h5 to remove the king's defenders and then play this in an aggressive manner. Basically, there are many ways you can tweak the London system to play it to your strengths. I've given you all the ideas, try them out, and if you found this useful, do hit the like button below this video. Alright, so it's puzzle time. In this position, it is white's turn and you need to find the best move continuation for white. Do share your answers in the comment section below. Guys, don't forget to like and subscribe and I shall see you in the next one.